Hi, little pre-intro. This is a follow-up to our last episode reviewing a script that Julian never finished about the development of Halo Infinite. There's some stuff I caught after the fact, so you're going to hear a few text-to-speech and editing interjections.
Like this.
Sorry, Billy, for hatcheting your awesome editing. That's it. Have fun. Hello, everybody. Welcome, Final V3.
Hi.
So, response to the first episode back was very nice, and I thank everybody.
Yeah, it was very nice to see everyone smiling and grinning. I'm really tired, so if the energy's low, sorry, guys. I will do what I can.
Julian's just getting in character as a game developer. It's a method acting method.
If I can be so fucking real with you, it's not insignificantly due in part to the fact that I've just been playing a lot of Campaign Evolved.
Yeah, not like a
that
spiritually
game sucked the soul out of me.
Not in a good way.
What's the good version of that, Sam?
A sex joke.
That's good.
Yeah, we're on top of our shit right now.
Last episode, if you didn't listen, we began the read-through of my unfinished Halo Infinite script, the one I've been teasing for probably close to 5 years at this point, and gave up on 2 or 3 years ago. It started by introducing the development timeline and a few of the early problems. Before we get too deep into it, I would say that if you're really interested in this, you may want to listen to the other one first, and then skip 15 minutes ahead to when we actually start reading the script.
And if you're not interested in it,
then why are you here?
Listen on 2x speed. Do yourself a favor.
Well, fucking yeah. You know what? Put Subway Surfers on. Jingle some keys for yourself.
Yeah.
I'm going to check on YouTube later to see whether or not there's like Jingling Keys 10-hour compilation. And if not, I'm going to make that video and put it on the second channel.
Absolutely. It's a companion piece. It's a visual aid.
Yeah. So, last video, we ran through the intro, which sets the scene for how things were at time of release and then winds the clock back. It also attempts to hook you in by saying that, like, I'm going to give a more salient, holistic view of how this went than anywhere I had seen been described at time of writing.
It was like 2023 you wrote this?
It dropped in 2021. 2 years after that is when the script started being written. And that was, like, after the dust had settled and, like, the numbers for its multiplayer were in the toilet and, like, everyone kind of agreed it was a dud. So, after that, I cover the beginnings of it, you know, from the time that that Halo 5 wrapped to ideation, the disproportionately strangely large amount of time the game spent in pre-production, and then I began detailing the tool that is Slipspace. That's the rebranded version of the Halo engine, internally referred to as the
Bland engine.
It was later transformed into what Bungie used to make Destiny 1, 2, Marathon. But those legacy tools were also developed and branched off into modern internal 343 Studios Industries tool set. They were a little archaic and they weren't quite up to snuff for the kind of game Infinite was, and so the overhauled version of it is what they coined the Slipspace engine. Long story short, it was a real hack job because they had a lot of unrealistic deadlines and they were building the tool set while people were using it at the same time. And so it was profoundly unreliable and it was causing a lot of problems from the second development properly started up.
And the other 2 additional details are 1, I did not contribute any information to this thing. And 2, you said last episode that co-op never released, and that was
I was stupid. Yes,
the worst
co-op
fucking flub, and it discredited, I think, the entire episode.
Yeah. So co-op released, it just never got split screen co-op, which was a big controversy.
Yeah, the local co-op.
Thank you for so bravely correcting me. Can we start doing things that matter now?
I'll allow it.
So after the big section that was making Slipspace, we carry on with using Slipspace. The script continues as follows. It's mid-2018 now. Things are a bit rough. We all know the fury that comes from a shit-ass piece of tech struggling to do the one thing it was made for. But for many at 343, dealing with that primal rage was part of the job. It was incredibly difficult to create slip space, but actually using it was a whole other type of hell, especially in the early days. Issues are manifesting in all manner of ways, from dozens of crashes a day to hour-long load times to the undo button not working. Some bugs are so common that people are sharing memes about them in the work chat. I have seen them. They are kind of funny. On the multiplayer team, experimentation continues. Some prototypes play like Counter-Strike, which will later morph into modes like Elimination, and the infamously rumored hero shooter, a payload game type with Reach-style class loadouts. A lot of time is being spent playtesting and refining this one, the hero shooter one, although nowhere near as much as some have said. The idea will soon be shelved, but some of the ideas will make it through into modes like Super Fiesta. One of the biggest challenges for the team is the free-to-play angle. Daily challenges that impact gameplay or certain aspects of the armor cores, for example, are proving very, very difficult to implement. Meanwhile, the island team, the guys responsible for crafting the open world, probably have it the worst. There were world builders who came on board before much of a world building tool existed. In fact, at this point of time, it still only kinda works. There are still some things we need to do that simply we cannot do. Like, say, create a slope. I'm not fucking exaggerating. That's how primitive things were not long ago. After all, the engineers have to start somewhere, right? Like, we're going from literally nothing to a terrain editor. So, like, that starts with things like placing cubes. And you have to make an open world map with that.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, so, like, you know, on the one hand, they had some very... They had some intuitive solutions. They basically went, like, broad strokes and then filed it down as the filing down tools were being created. In theory, it'd make sense for everyone to hold off on updating until programming has had the chance to fix up these new features. Those guys have made tons of progress on Faber, again, the level editing tool, but it is far from reliable. It's pretty common now for people to stick to a months-old version of the program, because even though they're woefully out of date and missing important features, at least they aren't playing Russian roulette with their workload. A single crash can mean hours of waiting. In theory, it'd make sense for everyone to hold off on updating until programming has had the chance to fix up new features, but in practice, as a level designer, if you need to make a fucking slope, and the only version of Faber that lets you make a goddamn slope is the super unreliable quote-unquote red build that was released last night and nobody has had the chance to bug test at all, you kind of just gotta bite the bullet. Congrats, you are promoted to level designer and bug tester. The new build crashed, that's okay, you can roll back, it'll only take another hour.
I'm gonna get a migraine. This is fucking awesome.
Load times are a consistent source of pain for the island team because, again, Halo Engine was never designed to support an open world. Whereas a Forerunner dungeon, which are most of which are about the size of a modest campaign mission, can be loaded up and edited pretty quick because the engine is designed for that. Zeta Halo, which is the open world, is essentially one gigantic map, and so a lot of shit has to be loaded into Faber before you can get it to work. Like, just to give you an idea, some have said that it can take more than it could take more than an hour to load the map, the island map, the overworld.
One person said
They would spend more of their day waiting for Faber than actually using Faber, which was their entire job. I'm reminded of something a Bungie developer told Jason Schreier a while ago. To quote, "The biggest differentiator between a studio that creates a really high quality game and a studio that doesn't isn't the team, it's their dev tools. If you can take 50 shots on goal and you're a pretty shitty hockey player, and I can only take 3 shots on goal and I'm Wayne fucking Gretzky, you're probably gonna do better." That's what tools are. It's how fast you can iterate. It's how stable they are, how robust they are, how easy it is as a non-technical artist to move a thing. Good tools equal better game. Always.
Oh, that hurts.
Yeah. So to summarize, because that was a little bit rough around the edges and it doesn't cleanly wrap up, the people in charge of designing the level have it really rough, but especially the people on Island are kind of in hell. they cannot get their work done.
Yeah. It's interesting. There's like a little bit of the clumsiness of this, and you covered for it when you were speaking, but it comes from partially speaking in the present tense from the perspective of the dev team and partially speaking in past tense looking back on it.
Yeah.
It's like
that was something I was grappling with a lot while writing this.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Again, something that I refined with the Bass Reeves script.
Yeah.
Next chapter is contractors and attrition. Learning subspace was not an easy task, especially when it's constantly changing. A game dev fresh out of college is usually expected to already be at least somewhat familiar with tools like Unreal or Unity, but Faber is something only people working at 343 know how to use, and so if you're fresh in the stew, depending on the job description, you're probably going to be spending a lot more time just learning the tools than actually contributing much to the project, at least until you get acclimated. It could take months to get familiar with the ins and outs of Slipspace because of how unique and bespoke its workflows were, and months more to become fluent in them. Everyone learns at their own pace. This is normal and to be expected. And unfortunately, what else is normal and expected in this industry is contract work. A used and often abused workforce who are paid far too little and who lack any guarantee of job security. I have a note that says, for more on that, pause here. And then there's like an aside. Oh my God, that's so much. Okay, holy shit. We're going to keep going and we're going to come back to that. Anyway, 343 has the unique problem of being owned by Microsoft, which means that no contractor under them is allowed to stick around for more than a year and a half. This is a legal precedent that was set decades ago. After 12 months, 343 might extend your term for another 6, but once you hit 18 months, they are forced to either shit or get off the pot, hire you or fire you. Don't get your hopes up, barely anyone's getting hired. People had a hard time telling when their contracts were even extended at times. It was kind of fucking unbelievable. Like, imagine not knowing if you have your job and still going to work. By the time contractors are becoming comfortable with the wacky-ass tool set, they could almost be halfway through their tenure. Considering that this studio is almost half made up of contractors, according to some estimates, you might say that this is bad. 343 is essentially never firing on all cylinders because it's constantly teaching dozens, if not hundreds, of new hires how everything works. And although I'm sure management would love to stop training half the industry and then immediately setting them off to some other place, they would have made a change if they were allowed to, I think. But they did not. And so one must assume that someone up top made the call to keep things the way they are. Long story short, what that means for any contractor is that they needed to just sort of keep their resume updated. I liked how that was.
All right.
Anyway, so let's go back to that one bit that I said we're gonna need to come back to that. I sort of just threw out that, like, hey, contractors are a problematic thing within this industry. Pause here if you want more. I wrote so fucking much on that. Let me read for you the very bloated aside. You could make the argument that Microsoft has instilled the 18-month limit in order to avoid violating human rights, but aside from the fact that they themselves said that it was to, quote, better protect our IP and confidential information, unquote, 343 chose to make a game of this scale, and the way they handled it had a very negative effect on a lot of talented, hardworking people. That much is not up for debate. I've spoken before about how full-time employment can be unintentionally or maliciously held over contractors' heads back in the Crunch video, but the fun does not stop there. Technically, a lot of the people working at 343 didn't actually work for 343. They instead worked for various employment agencies that I will not name, who worked for 343. I myself have been in a position like this before. If you have any experience with subcontracting, or you're smart and your brain is pulsating, you'll have already noticed the problem here. Places like, I don't know, fucking Jared Solutions are incentivized, that's not a real place, by the way, are incentivized to keep as much of the money 343 is giving to them as possible. And so it's not on the developer to negotiate with their employer for basic things like wage and benefits, which isn't even something a lot of contractors know about. I didn't. It's very, very common for a contractor to be paid just over minimum wage and or less than half of their coworker who does the exact same job, but who negotiated for a better contract, or more likely, got lucky when they were hired, or, by a different agency or something. Additionally, most contractors, they're paid hourly rather than hourly, which means they may not get paid overtime for crunching. Agencies would sometimes cut pay or remove benefits for no fucking reason. Again, I myself have been subject to this back when I was working contract.
In the game industry, contractors are often
given no vacation time, no insurance, no benefits at all. Can relate. External QA testers, often considered by the gaming industry at large as a lower class of developer, often got it even worse.
So Julian's running through these issues with contractors in the game industry. And there's a bit here where he talks about 343 specifically, but he can't find his records corroborating that stuff. It's also not 100% clear from the script what information is about 343 specifically and what is sourced from like general articles about contracting. A lot of the issues with contractors at 343 have been reported on elsewhere at this point. We've seen developers speak out about it, which is great. But the stuff in this script is still unfinished reporting. So I'm skipping over some of that stuff here, but you can and should look for it elsewhere. Sorry, unfinished script.
Awesome fucking industry. Cool stuff. God, I'm getting worked up just revisiting this. Fuck, this makes me so mad.
The salary thing pisses me off. Where's the better protect our IP and confidential information quote come from?
Almost definitely from one of the 3 URLs linked down below that I labeled as further reading.
Yeah, damn. Yeah.
I would wager it's probably either the Computer World article or the Polygon article from 2016.
Yeah. Article, Microsoft to pay $97 million to settle permatemp case. Yeah.
Yep. Permatemp. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, for full transparency, it's
brother, I did so much fucking research for this. I was looking into labor laws because of this shit.
Yeah. For full transparency, most of my career is contract work, but the companies that I work with are pretty solid pay transparency.
You're not having the veiled promise of full-time employment stability dangled over your head.
And I'm paid well.
Yeah.
To be super specific, I don't contract through an agency like Jared Solutions. I contract through myself, and all of my contracts have protections for, I don't do unpaid overtime and all that stuff.
We love the bare minimum in this house.
I mean, it's it is what makes sense for contract work.
Yeah. The next chapter, leadership. At this point, you're probably asking the same question I was while learning all of this. Who the fuck is making these decisions? Decisions are, of course, made from the top down. On the bottom level, you got the contractors, guys who are given less control, get invited to less meetings, and are generally considered a second class. Then you have the mid-level, the full-timers. Then you got the seniors. These are the veterans and the pros, the best of the team, the people who answer to the leads, who answer to the managers, who answer to the directors, who answer to the executives, who answer to the shareholders. Generally speaking, the higher up the chain you go, the less confidence I've heard from the people I spoke to at 343. Some leadership is genuinely fantastic. If you're lucky, you will answer to someone with a clear vision, great communication skills. Not everyone had that. Others around the studio are considered by many as well-meaning but kind of clueless. There are rumors going around that some people are more concerned with the TV show production than Infinite's production around this time. Some people just don't feel like they're getting the time they need or the direction that they need, and so they're kind of just, left out to dry. I had more here, but I didn't have the ability to fully corroborate it. Suffice it to say, some people had a really fucking bad time working at this company. To be clear, most of the people I spoke to had mixed feelings, often describing some leadership as incompetent but others as the best in the biz. Sometimes I'll hear 2 descriptions of the same guy that sound completely incompatible. That's what's so tough about this story, man. And part of why it's taken so long, I say, writing that part of the sentence, thinking I'm still going to release this video. There is no single person or thing I can point to as the cause of any given issue regarding the game's production. It's all cumulative. It's death by 1,000 cuts. Development is messy, and people's experiences are unique. And 343 was a gigantic company. I've spoken to Jez Corden, another journalist who's spent years documenting 343's troubles, and as he put it to me in DMs, quote, I've spoken to well over 60 current and former employees in and around 343, and I couldn't find a single narrative. Everyone blamed someone or something else, so I just get the impression that what it ultimately lacked was a centralized authority or a voice that could lead the whole team towards a singular vision. It sounded just like wall-to-wall mismanagement. That is the impression I got too from my own experience. This dysfunction isn't exclusive to leadership, though. The much trickier thing about all of this is that it's also ingrained into the studio's culture itself. Any notes before we continue?
Yeah, it's... Let me think for a second about this. I think it's really interesting
it's
the specific way that this is messy and clumsy. Because I think one of the things I would identify as a big flaw in this script is the thing that you're pointing at here, which is you were not able to get a clear, specific story, but you're trying to speak with the same narrative tone that you normally do. You're trying to say, this is what happened. Here's the rumor that's going around. But it's like, you can't couch that with one developer said this and like switching back into this more, the way that reporting is generally written. And it feels like you keep, even in the original script, bumping into that. It definitely feels like an early swing at trying to do a story like this.
Yeah. It's a good thing I got to make the Bass Reeves video because it was just the opportunity to actually do this and learn what it should be like.
I mean, well,
I really wanted to do it here, but I just couldn't get a narrative. I couldn't get clarity because like, it was such a fucking mess in that studio.
Yeah. But I mean, even with the Bass Reeves video, is like significantly less messy story. It's a much smaller production. A lot less happened. A lot less really went wrong. But even then, like part of what I think we did was like we did pick a perspective and let things kind of unravel at the end, and let things kind of splinter a bit in terms of different people's recollections of what happened. And like we found a synthesis of what happened that everyone agreed felt true to the project. But there's a version of that video that you take a way more outsider, like trying to take this less narratively stance that you might have had to take with a project like this. Like, I don't think that you can do a Bass Reeves about this unless you're willing to pick sides within the 343 institution and whose perspectives you validate as true.
And that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to pick a side against upper management, but I didn't have enough ammunition or evidence to go fully in on it. And you're seeing the cracks show through around here. And that was one of the big reasons that I just couldn't commit to it.
Yeah.
Here's something that I had a bit more information on because it was not something that I myself was alone in reporting on. I could use the evidence that I got and compound it with what others had reported. Silos. Here's an example. It's very difficult at times for multiplayer to experiment with ideas or implement features. This is a hypothetical, by the way, to be entirely clear. It's very difficult at times for the multiplayer team to experiment with ideas or implement features because Sandbox team, who's responsible for decisions like what weapons you get, how they work, how enemies behave, and so on, those guys are making changes that the rest of the studio learns about through email. Marketing is plowing ahead with interviews and announcements, building hype however they can, all the while engineering pleads with the directors for more time, a request that always falls on deaf ears. 343 seems to have a real communication problem. Each team was very insular, and they all needed more time and resources than they had. There was hardly any crosstalk between them save for leaders of the teams sometimes, and so because of this lack of communication, you end up in situations where, for example, I'm making up an example here, campaign levels would need to be completely redesigned due to changes in mobility. Meetings where important features were scoped out and planned out, often they would, for instance, exclude an individual who would be able to say no, who would shoot down the idea of like, hey, what if we had 3 biomes or something, you know? Like, that things would get overscoped and then need to be reeled back way later whenever important people realized, oh, fuck, we can't do this. There are rumors of toxic infighting, but it's not like the teams hated each other. They just didn't communicate all the time before making contradictory design choices because the studio simply didn't operate that way. Poor communication was company culture. One developer told Schreier that it was like 4 or 5 different games being developed simultaneously. Studios of this size, with this level of dysfunction, can be a nightmare to direct. 343 had ballooned to over 400 employees, and the larger the ship grew, the harder it was to steer, I reckon. If 2 teams barely communicate with each other, and nobody knows what anyone else is making, then how can upper management be expected to know what people on the ground floor are even doing? God, what a fucking nightmare, dude.
There was a thing you said at the beginning that you said this is a hypothetical I'm making up, and then it didn't sound like a hypothetical, and some of it linked out to other stuff.
I mean, it's because the hypothetical was written down. I wrote a hypothetical down and then chose to link it to other stuff.
Oh.
It was a very effective hypothetical.
Oh. Damn.
I should have been more clear in the writing of that.
Yeah.
Like I said, this script is fucking messy and it needs a lot of revision.
Yeah, the lack of guarding around hypotheticals is like getting even more pervasive as you're getting further into development.
Yeah, man, I know. It's because I couldn't stop myself. I wanted so badly to speak with authority.
Yeah.
Because I saw so many people. It's crazy. The crazy thing is that I'm doing the thing I was so frustrated I saw other people doing. Mm-hmm. Wherever I would take an educated guess based on what I did know, and then I would run with it to make a bunch of connections that I reckon are probably true, but I cannot corroborate. And then I just say that like it's fact.
Yeah. And this sucks because it's like, how many times has something that felt obviously true turned out to be kind of wrong?
Yeah, man.
Oh, sorry, the reason I'm stumbling real quick is because I was just scanning the section again just because there's other things that you like tagged I reckon onto that weren't written with an I reckon in the original script.
Yeah, it's because I'm like really trying to make sure that in post people do not make assumptions that because like I really need to have written this with less authority, and so I'm trying live here to like make it more clear to those listening that some of this stuff I'm talking with unwarranted authority on, I really shouldn't be.
Yeah. It's interesting to try and think about how you would have rewritten this to like preserve the threads of information so that people could chain ideas together without having to filter it through the YouTube gamer. This is authoritatively true thing. That's like very often these scripts end up feeling like that's kind of the voice that they have to filter information through. Yeah. It's fucked up that Jason Schreier has a YouTube channel now. Crowding out the market for people whose YouTube channels are founded on reading his articles.
It's so fucking funny. And he has the worst, unbelievable dog shit thumbnails that look like they're 20 years old.
They're really good.
It's so cool. Next chapter. Outsourcing. With production lagging behind due to everything, leadership has now decided to outsource additional help from external partners. Side note, author's note, I retrospectively doubt they just now made this decision, but I wanted the scripts to feel like everything was happening as I brought it to you, so I just said that wrong. I reckon this was always the plan, because this is just how AAA development works these days. Normally, when a big publisher hires a supplementary studio, like they assign the studio grunt work, like generic asset creation, the kind of thing that wouldn't interfere with high-level development decisions. But 343, presumably because they have so many crazy efficiency problems going on, are outsourcing pretty crucial parts of the game. I'm talking stuff that is fundamental to mechanics. This can work out, but only if the content is delivered on time and both studios communicate very, very clearly. I would like to point to an analog that I have seen countless times with the animation industry. Whenever you outsource in-betweens, you know? Like, you'll get a board artist to lay out the groundwork, right? And then, like, based on those instructions, you send it overseas to do the bulk of the work, because animation in the West is optimized to be as cheap as humanly possible. And so the people you outsource to are underpaid, untrained, and, I mean, they're just abused workers. And the quality of the work reflects that. It's an unfortunate reality that, like, you know, you get people to do the grunt work. There are exceptions to this, but this is a very common problem that you find whenever you are outsourcing, and especially when you are outsourcing overseas, because that's where cheap labor is often found. Anyway, whenever you as an animation studio get back work like that, it's very often, it's not uncommon that you will need to do retakes in order to touch up that work, because it's not quite shippable. This is something that I have heard also happening in the games industry, and I would not at all be surprised if it happened with 343, but I couldn't corroborate it.
That's also not necessarily just down to working conditions, as like different practices between the outsourcing studio and the main studio, the kind of like the inability to have like a really tight iteration cycle because you are communicating with a studio who is managing their employees inside of them versus just being able to like have that internally.
Like maybe the work you get back is great, but it's just not going to work in engine for some reason. Maybe it's like really high quality work, but it doesn't match the art style. But like there's so many things that could go wrong that can only really be fixed whenever you have really clear communication. But if there's one thing that we can definitively say, it's that 343 seems to really, 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 really struggle with communication.
Yeah.
It's just such a fucking mess.
When you talk about multiple studios working together on crucial mechanics, I am genuinely, and this just because this is outside of my experience, unsure how uncommon that actually is. Because I have heard of other studios doing this, but I don't know if there is a standard practices way to do it.
That's so wild to me, man. Like imagine telling some external studio, we need you guys to design, I don't know, the fucking grapple shot. Like that's core to the game and how it works. Stuff like that, I can't imagine it being outsourced. Like, how does that work when you're designing the whole system around that?
I'm giving myself one extra addendum for fun. Keep in mind, there's some flexibility to what I describe as outsourcing here versus like development partners or sister studios or whatever. I'm talking about stuff being split between studios. And there's exceptions to every rule, but in general, the intuition is totally right. You would not want to split work between studios at the granularity of like a single movement mechanic. The most extreme cases you can look at for splitting up work is like Spec Ops: The Line and a lot of other 360 era games where the multiplayer mode would be totally split off and handled by a different studio as basically a different game. But ideally, tightly related features should be consolidated into the same team. And that's what Julian's catching on to. Once you split work between teams, the frequency of communication goes down and the cost of asking how your work is supposed to interface with the rest of the game goes up, which can be fine if you have some kind of boundary that provides rough answers to those questions. But if you do not have that, you are in trouble. I polled some friends about this. However you draw those lines, it's rare for core systems to be spread across multiple studios because it is exactly as much of a communication hassle as you'd expect. But it does happen. A lot of this is like Melvin Conway's Law kind of shit. So I would be curious what other people have to say about this. I have experience with this, especially around porting, but not at Halo scale. And to be super clear, none of this talking to my friends includes anything related to Halo Infinite. I don't have any information about where they drew those lines. Okay, bye.
It's outside of my experience what specific problems that usually turns into, but it's not. I don't know if this is like an inherently insane thing to do at that scale.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's good that you're flagging this, and it really just goes to show how much this. I mean, quite frankly, looking back, I think the script was doomed from the start because I so badly wanted to give clarity, but I'm just not the guy. I don't know enough about development, and you're a developer, and you don't know enough about development to be able to make judgment calls on half this shit.
Yeah.
When I spoke to Jez, who I mentioned earlier, he said that this story, trying to break it, was his fucking white whale. And now I know why. It was mine too, man.
Yeah, I don't know. How are you feeling retrospectively with that section that we have just read through?
I think this section is perhaps some of the most indicative as to why this script did not ever coalesce. And retrospectively, I'm really glad that it didn't, to be honest with you, because there's no version of this approach that wouldn't have overstepped, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I thought I was him. I thought I was the guy who could break this.
Yeah.
It was very naive of me, but I also think it was important for me to do this and fail because it led to stuff like the Bass Reeves video.
Yeah. I think this captures a really specific moment in like your personal development as a writer.
Yeah.
Including the sections where it feels like you're trying to make like in the last episode with what's his name? Michael Warfare. Like you're trying to make like a little, like a gamer tulpa of the worst aspects of your past commentary and trying to kill him in hopes it'll make you grow faster.
Yeah. But also, but not just mine, but also just like, I was at peak fed up with gaming discourse at this time, and Halo is the Star Wars of video games, which means that it has some of the absolute most insufferable, horrible, just the discussion around Halo is always, it makes me want to put a bullet in my head. So like it was me attacking myself and everyone around me.
Oh, for sure. But I think like a lot of the intensity of this for you is like because like, I think if this was some other franchise, and there are other franchises that have like similarly toxic discourse, but I don't think you would have felt nearly as strongly about these aspects.
It's because I loved Halo. You know, I had a horse in this race. I really wanted to see Halo Infinite succeed. I really wanted this to be the comeback. I had a lot of emotional investment in this.
Yeah, I'm also just saying on a level of when it comes to talking about games, this feels like the ways in which this script is trying to tell its story. How do I even put this? Part of the reason that this script wants to be so authoritative about games is because it does put you in if you do pull this off, it does put you in a definitively different place than you were before.
Yeah, and I wanted so badly to just distance myself from the commentary shit. The people who knew nothing and pretended they knew everything. Yeah. But I wanted it so bad that I ended up doing the thing I was trying not to do in order to get there.
It is really interesting to have Halo Infinite scripts that didn't come out be the way that this is getting explored through you. So yeah, I don't know. Good times.
Yeah. We're not even to the worst of it yet. We've really outlined the majority of the problems, but we still haven't even gotten to the release of the E3 trailer yet.
Right. I forgot about that for a minute.
Craig has not yet appeared.
I don't remember Craig.
You will remember Craig next time.